Hey everyone, this is PM Sport Talk, the father and son duo podcast. I'm your host Preston, alongside my father Mike and Dad. How are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Had a very exciting weekend in sports, and I can't wait to talk about it. Let's go.
Let's go. We're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff like baseball, college basketball, and NBA getting to their playoffs as well as NHL. Right, they're getting the playoffs.
A couple weeks away, I believe.
That's gonna be very exciting. Best time in sports. So let's start off with some MLB. And Dad, the story has got to be the New York Yankees starting off 5-0, sweeping the Astros and getting that win against the Diamondbacks last night.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat today where it's been like 30 or 40 years since they started 5-0, which is hard to believe with a team that's always good.
Yeah, their franchise, they're known for being one of the best franchises ever.
Yeah, but they usually don't get off to good starts, and I think this was imperative for this team this year to get off to a great start after what happened last year. Missing the playoffs for the first time, and I don't know when, and barely having a plus 500 record. Great sign. I think most of it can be contributed to one person too. I think you know who I'm talking about.
One and only Juan Soto.
Yeah, he's the catalyst. I knew he was a good player. Obviously, I watched him play on Washington and win the World Series when he was, I don't know if he was a rookie or just a second.
Very young.
Very young anyway.
Beat the Astros, who looked unbeatable.
And that's what, 4 or 5 years ago? I think it was before the pandemic. So, yeah, it's at least 5 years ago.
Yeah. It was like 2019.
So he must have been a rookie because he's only like 25, 26 now. So,
is he that young?
He's that young. I think he's 26 maybe. So he was like, 20 years old, 21, something like that when that happened. Yeah, he's just a great player. I was a little worried that maybe being in New York, maybe he'd be feel like he's under pressure or not. That doesn't seem the case at all. He seems like he's having a great time out there.
Right.
Just playing baseball. I love his at-bats. He's a lot different than Aaron Judge and Stanton. Those two guys are very good players, obviously Judge for sure. But if you watch the at-bats from Soto, he doesn't strike out a lot. He makes contact. He doesn't swing at bad pitches. Sometimes Judge will swing at a pitch that's, 4 miles out of the strike zone. You don't see that with Juan Soto.
It's very rare that Judge does that.
Well, not as bad now. I mean, he used to.
Yeah.
He's a little better now, but Soto, he's I just think he's just what they needed. He's a power guy that can also has a good eye. He'll take his walks. He took 2 walks last night in their win. He just does what needs to be done. He had the game-winning hit on Sunday. Yeah, he's just the catalyst, and it's rubbing off on the rest of the players. Anthony Volpe, who I think had a pretty good rookie season last year. I mean, for a rookie.
Yeah.
There was a lot of New York fans that were like, oh, my God, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to compare him to Derek Jeter, but he's off to a great start. He was, 4 for 4 last night, I think. Cabrera,
that's what I want to talk about.
He was kind of up and down last year, and he's off to a great start. If he keeps playing this way, DJ LeMahieu might not find his way back into the starting lineup, which won't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, he's kind of iffy.
I haven't watched enough of the games to know if Cabrera is as good a fielder as LeMahieu. I know he spent most.
They play 2 different positions.
Well, he's playing third base.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right, because Verdugo, we got him.
Yeah. So LeMahieu was going to be the starting third baseman this year.
Didn't he get hurt, or are they just not playing him?
No, he got hurt.
Okay.
That's the only reason Cabrera's playing, because he got hurt. He was going to be the starter. Apparently, LeMahieu had a very good spring training, too. And then he got hurt just before the regular season was supposed to start. And then he's got a broken bone in his foot, I think. So I don't know what his situation is. Plus, he's getting older. He had a bad year last year.
Stroman, how about him? He had a really good start.
He had a good start. That's good to see from him. Rodon even had a pretty good start, which they have to have. He cannot be like he was last year. If he is like he was last year, they have no chance of winning.
Nestor Cortez is like the only one I'm kind of worried about.
He's a little shaky. We'll see. You know, it's first.
It's early.
It's early. It's early. So they're 5-0, and their starters were decent, but they weren't great. Their bullpen has been excellent. I believe their bullpen is the only bullpen in baseball that hasn't allowed a run yet. And I remember you and I talking. We were like, "Oh, there's a lot of new guys in their bullpen," so we weren't really sure, you know, how good they were going to be. The closer, Holmes. God, I can never remember his name. Clayton Holmes and Clay Holmes. Wow. I'm not doing good with names today. But anyway, yeah, and Loizaga, they still have him, but there's a lot of other new guys in there. You know, they shipped out Michael King. He was part of the Juan Soto trade.
Peralta, Brito.
Yeah, all those guys are gone. Peralta has been excellent for them the last 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, I mean, it's a long ways to go, but if this beginning is any indication of how it's going to go, I like their chances of definitely getting back into the playoffs. And, you know, we'll see what happens. But it all probably hinges on whether Garrett Cole comes back or not. If he can come back, I mean, he's not going to come back till probably sometime in June. So it's about 2 months away. If he can come back and be 90% of what he was last year, I really like their chances of, you know, possibly getting to the World Series this year.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think not to interrupt, but I think he has to come back healthy. If he doesn't come back healthy, they might get into the playoffs, but they won't win without, because I just don't think their starting pitching without him is good enough to win in the playoffs. But they probably will get there, but they have to have him if they want to make damage in the playoffs.
Yeah, the pitching is like the only starting pitching. I should be specific. Is the only thing that could have improvement. I like our batters. I like the fielding. I just like how it's going so far. Obviously, it's showing on the field because we're 5-0. But yeah, I agree with that statement. We need Cole back to really show how dangerous this team can be.
Yeah, it's starting pitching. You got to have decent. I mean, although Texas, you know, they won the World Series, and it's not like they had decent pitching, but they didn't have top-notch pitching starting, so they did it.
Evaldi, they had Evaldi, Montgomery.
Yeah, and those guys are good, but they're not Garrett Cole good.
Yeah, no, rarely anyone is Garrett Cole.
I realize that, but what I'm saying is they won the World Series without having elite starting pitching.
Right.
And so the Yankees, you know, you never know, they could do it, but I just think that, you know, Garrett Cole is probably very vital to their chances of getting back to the World Series, which they haven't done in 15 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's time. So
it's about time. Fans are expecting it.
Yeah, it's great to see. Nothing better for baseball. I mean, you really need the Yankees to be good because it gives you that the dimension of, hey, the fans that love the Yankees, and then you got just as many that hate the Yankees. So it's good for baseball. You have that evil empire, if you want to say it, or whatever you want to call them, you know. So it just creates so much more for the sport. You know, guys like you and I are going to watch it because we love baseball, but the casual fan, they need the Yankees in there. A New York Yankees team in the World Series, let's face it, that's money. And the Dodgers are going to be really good this year, I would expect, with Otani and all that. So if you could have like a New York, LA World Series or something like that, how good would that be for baseball?
You mentioned Otani.
There's a little controversy.
You mentioned there. Otani. I feel like we can't. We gotta.
Yeah.
It's kind of. I mean, a bunch of people have a bunch of different opinions on it. You know, the main thing is the interpreter stole money. That's what Otani's saying, at least. Who knows if that's the truth?
Well, the thing of it is this could be a big deal or it could not be a big deal. Yeah. Thing of it is ESPN, when this story first came out, ESPN first did the story with Otani, the interpreter. They didn't talk to Otani, but the interpreter. and I did a story on this whole thing. The first thing that came out was that Otani was aware of this, and he paid off the debt. He helped a friend pay off the debt. He didn't steal the debt or anything. Otani knew about it and all this. So then the next day or a couple days later, the whole story changed because, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, is they didn't want any negative publicity for Otani at all. So all of a sudden now he's not helping out a friend with a gambling debt. The friend stole money from him. So they could distance Otani from this whole thing. And the longer this goes on, the more and more you begin to wonder how involved Otani was in all this. Because
this could mean a lot. Like, this could be his career. If you look at the whole Pete Rose thing, I get it's a little different, but like still, if he was involved in it could mean his career.
If it ever comes out that he was betting on baseball, it would be.
Yeah.
They are allowed to bet on other sports. But this wasn't, like a FanDuel thing or something. This was with a bookie, an illegal bookie. So that's totally different. It's not legal.
So like, I guess if it was a legal bookie and Otani wasn't involved, it doesn't matter if he's betting on baseball, does it? Because
from what I understand, from what they're saying, baseball would like fine him and maybe suspend him for a few games, but that would be it.
A few games?
That's what because something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised because Otani's their golden boy, kind of like Mahomes is for the NFL. So they'll get a little slap on the wrist, maybe.
Yeah, that's why the whole story changed, because they were trying to. I don't know if it was baseball or just Otani's camp said, "Whoa, we can't have you linked to this guy paying off his gambling debts or involved in any way." So next thing you know, he stole the money from him. This guy has been his friend for years. It's very unlikely that he stole this money from him. Otani had to know about this. It was $4.5 million. It wasn't, $50,000. It was $4.5 million. If that was the case, the guy would be arrested and all this stuff. He's not arrested. They sent him back to Japan. He's living high on the hog over there because what they did is they paid him off probably. He said, "Oh, listen, this is how this is going to go. We'll take care of you. Don't worry. You're not going to be his interpreter anymore, but we'll take care of you. And this is the narrative that we're going to push, that you stole the money."
That's ridiculous.
It's so crazy.
They gotta do a deep dive into this.
They are. They are doing a deep dive, but I've listened to a lot of people on sports, and the vast majority of them are all saying that it's very unlikely that Otani did not know about this, that the money was stolen from him, that he knew about this. They're not saying there's no proof that he was betting or anything. We don't know anything like that yet, but he knew about this in some way, shape, or form.
He's got to.
Either he knew that his friend was betting, and from what I was told, these bookies won't take, won't cover a bet from a guy like the interpreter, because they don't know, they're not going to allow him to bet all this money and then because they don't know if they're going to get paid when he loses. They need big money backing him up. Well, that big money backing him up is Otani. So they knew that Otani would cover his bet. So that they're not just going to let this guy go $4.5 million in the hole, because they have no way of getting that money back unless they can get it from somebody else. Who? Otani. So Otani had to know about this and had to vouch for him and say, "Yeah, I'm good. He's good for it. I'll back him up." Something like that, or he was betting himself. It's something like that. There's no way he didn't know about it. So this is really interesting where this is going to go.
Yeah, it's very controversial. A lot of different opinions on it, like I said, and I guess we're just gonna have to wait till stuff comes out.
Right. And you brought Pete Rose, and then there's a lot of people, especially old school people, are like, "Hey, wait a minute. Pete Rose got banned from baseball. We're just going to turn their head on this guy." So it's really interesting to see what's going to happen. Yeah, I have a feeling we're not going to know anything until after the season.
We're going to leave it at if Otani does get found out betting on baseball, and nothing happens, or just he let Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame then.
Absolutely.
It goes both ways.
It's a big slip. That's why it's so interesting how this is going to go. And who knows if we'll ever actually really know the truth, though. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully we will. Baseball seems to take that kind of thing seriously. So
they take everything seriously.
I'm hoping that if he did bet on baseball, that we'll know.
Well, we got to move on from baseball. We got a lot of other stuff to talk about. So we're going to get into the big money, the college basketball, both men's and women's.
Yes, we're going to dive into both realms here for the first time.
We're going to talk about the men's tournament first. And I think it would be a crime if we don't start off by saying what a job Kevin Keatts has done with the NC State team. That seat was very warm for Kevin Keatts, and he was able to get that team to win the ACC tournament, which is their way of marching into this tournament. And now, look at that. They're in the Final Four, ready to take on Purdue.
Yeah, this team was dead man walking. They had no shot of getting in this tournament whatsoever. They were 17-14 when they started that ACC tournament. No shot. They had to win 5 games in a row just to make it.
And they did.
They had a miraculous game winner against Virginia there in the semifinal. And then they took down North Carolina in the final, which was a big shock to everybody.
The thing everyone's talking about is what if that Virginia player sinked that free throw? How different would this tournament be?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy, huh? No NC State. Who knows how these games would have turned out? I mean, all these teams that they've beaten.
They've beaten Texas Tech, Oakland, who in the third round, Sweet 16, who they play?
Marquette.
Duke. And now they got their biggest test so far, Purdue.
Yes. It's a huge test. I'm afraid that the slipper is going to fall. Cinderella, they're not going to get their slipper in this. It's not going to happen. I just don't think that they can take on Purdue.
That's what they want you to say. That is exactly what they want you to say. Their whole thing, their whole motto, why not us?
Yeah. I mean, and I know I doubted them. I thought for sure Duke would beat them Sunday because I just felt like Duke had way more talent than they do, and figured that eventually talent would win out. And they keep proving me wrong. But I just don't know. Purdue, Zach Edey, I'm just afraid. Like, he doesn't usually get foul trouble, but he has a tendency of getting the other big guy in foul trouble. And I'm afraid that he's going to get DJ Burns into foul trouble. And if he's not on the floor, that NC State team is a totally different team. And it's a fascinating matchup to see how it's going to go. I just don't know if he can match up with the height of Edey. I mean, he's got the size. He can probably keep Edey out away from the basket. I'm just afraid he's going to get fouls, and that will doom NC State if that happens.
Right, I agree, because a lot of this NC State offense is either DJ Burns bully ball or he draws into double teams and brings open shots, and they have guys who can knock down those shots.
So there's not going to be any double teams in this game because Edey doesn't need the double team with him. He's going to guard him one-on-one.
Exactly.
So how is that dynamic going to go?
That is true, because who was guarding him in the Duke game? Filipowski or Mark Mitchell? Who?
Mitchell, and they had a couple other guys that they could bring in. Yeah, I don't think Filipowski guarded him much, did he? I guess he did a little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm. If it goes the way that Tennessee game, I mean, Edey didn't even have a foul called on him till like near the end of the game, which I think is ridiculous, but we'll see. Maybe Burns can get him in foul trouble. You never know. With Edey, it's been the other way around. He's pretty good at not taking fouls. He's so tall, he just puts his hands straight up, and they don't call fouls on him, right?
Right.
I got to give him credit. He doesn't reach or any of that. He just plays good defense, so he doesn't have to reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
and
we'll see. Maybe Burns can bring him away from the basket a little bit. I don't know.
But say if NC State were to win this game, go into the championship, and play the Uconn Huskies, he's got to play Zach Edey, then Donovan Clingan. How?
It's very unlikely that they can get through both those teams. So, as great of a story as it's been, I don't see them winning.
Who is UConn playing again? I forgot.
Alabama.
See, I don't like that matchup.
I give Alabama a better chance than I do NC State. Because, well, Alabama shoots threes.
They shoot threes. Stephon Castle is going to be guarding Sears, I would assume. Grant Nelson, he's a paint player. He's not getting into that paint against Donovan Clingan. Nobody is. And if they got Castle guarding the perimeter very well against Sears, I don't think they match up well. I don't.
You might be right, but I just think they have a better chance than NC State does, because I just think because Alabama, Sears is great, but they have like 4 or 5 other guys that shoot threes pretty well. They might be able to, if they're not going to do like Illinois did. Illinois, that game that UConn played against Illinois, absolute blowout. Illinois just kept trying to do the same thing over and over again, just trying to go inside.
They're terrible. That was a terrible. I mean, they were running ISOs, and the Illinois players were just standing around watching. I'm not sure what the game plan was at halftime. They must have thought, it's 23-23. Go do your thing. Go do the same thing we've been doing. But UConn's going to game plan against that. And I'm just going to say it's a 30-0 run. I've never seen anything like it.
I've never have either. They just kept trying to do the same thing over and over.
It's been like, there's been like one other thing in the whole thing of basketball, NBA, college basketball, that I can relate it to. And that's that Los Angeles Clippers comeback against the Warriors a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember that, but they went on like a 28-0 run.
Yeah, I don't remember that one, but yeah, I have never seen a 30-0 run.
30-0 run. It's.
I mean, it was over 2 halves, but still, it's 30-0's 30-0. I mean,
right.
Well, they interviewed the Illinois coach, and they asked him, what's he doing? He goes, We're not backing down from our game plan. We're just going to keep going right at him. They kept trying. Well, how many shots are you going to have blocked by Clingan? You can't keep going at him. It's not working.
Coleman Hawkins struggled badly against Donovan Clingan. I mean, he didn't stand a chance even going into the game. What makes you think all these guards can go in at Donovan Clingan?
They kept trying to go to the basket. No, they had to shoot threes.
And when they were shooting threes, they couldn't make them.
Yeah, they didn't make them. That's part of it. That's why I give Alabama a chance, because they're pretty good at it. And they're the top scoring team in the nation. And if they can hit their threes, they will keep that game close. I'm not saying they're going to win.
Oh, yeah, I believe so. I mean, they got guys. I mean, Terrence Shannon Jr. was carrying that team, Illinois. And we all knew Coleman Hawkins wasn't going to be a factor with Clingan guarding him. I mean, maybe from the perimeter, but he wasn't knocking down shots. And Stephon Castle, literally, I don't know how to word it. It was bad. Terrence Shannon Jr. couldn't do anything on him.
He shut him down, and yeah, I mean, he may very well do the same thing to Sears too. But
the thing is, Alabama can rely on other guys. I mean, the only guy who showed, I don't know if you noticed, but the only guy who showed up for Illinois was Marcus Domask.
Yeah, he was the only one. He posted up his guy and just kept backing him down in and then shooting over him. He's really good. He's 6'5" guard, and yeah, that was the only thing that they had. So that's why I think this Alabama team has a shot, because they play a different style in Illinois. They don't try to go inside. They don't make their living going to the basket. They make their living at the 3-point line. If those shots are going, they're going to be in the game. Now, they could go cold, and like you said, if Castle's on Sears and he shuts them down, they're not going to win. But
I think Nate Oates can drop a good game plan.
I think he's a better coach.
Right.
He's got a whole week. See, the Illinois coach, he only had one day to come up with a game plan. I'm sure they talked about it earlier, but when they won on Thursday night. They only had Friday to prepare for Uconn. Well, now Alabama has the whole week to prepare for Uconn. They probably come up with something. I think it'll be a competitive game. I think Uconn will win, but I think it'll be fairly competitive. I'm just not so sure about the other game being competitive because I just don't know if they can deal with Edey. Now, if those Purdue guards don't hit their shots, I mean, that game could stay close too. But NC State, they're not a great shooting team either. Horn can be good.
O'Connell,
they're okay, but they're not. They're not like Alabama where they're going to make 15 threes.
Right. Yeah.
So they rely on Burns to score, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to score against Edey. Well, I hope he can. I'd love to see them beat him, but on the other hand, what's the better matchup for Monday night? UConn Purdue? I think that's probably the best matchup, right?
Probably.
I think that's what everybody wants to see.
Yeah. San Diego State and FAU. I mean, either way, last year I'm talking about, we knew who was going to win, right?
Yeah, that
either
championship game, we knew who was winning.
Either way. But this is a little different. Purdue, I mean, come on. Edey and Klingon both can complement each other and kind of cancel each other out.
I think I think that's a pick'em game. I think that can go either way.
Right.
With those two guys.
And NC State, I mean, they have a chance to make it close with their mindset and if Burns is able to find something against Klingon, then maybe. But I think Purdue and UConn would be the best matchup possible left.
I won't be shocked, but I'll be surprised.
Same thing.
If
that's the same thing.
If those, well, it's not.
Okay.
If those two teams are not there on Monday night,
that's the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. The thing is with Alabama, it looks like they're playing a lot better when their star player isn't. They don't know if he's going to play or not, and I'm referring to Brandon Miller last year.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Totally better. Yeah, it's just a more cohesive team.
And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to get involved with all this stuff. I'm just saying there's less distractions, so they're having more success on the court.
Yeah, I mean, he was the main guy. He was jacking up all the shots, and if he was distracted, and the whole team would be distracted. So yeah, it's a much better, it's a team. It's a much more of a team this year.
Right.
I mean, you find that a lot. Sometimes the teams that have the great player, the team is great. But a lot of times, a team that doesn't have the great player, just has a lot of good players, is better. And that's what Alabama is this year compared to last year.
Well, there is what your men's college basketball Final Four is going to look like. And now I want to talk about Caitlin Clark getting her revenge on LSU this last night. Caitlin Clark last year against LSU lost in the championship game, and it brought a lot of hate to the LSU team because of the taunting towards her. And Caitlin Clark this year, in the Elite Eight, I believe it was, Sweet 16, whatever it was.
Elite Eight. Yeah.
Elite Eight. Caitlin Clark dropped 41 points on LSU's head, 12 assists, and led her team to the Final Four. She is something women's sports hasn't seen in a very long time.
I don't think they've ever seen it.
Yeah.
You and I go back and forth on this a little bit. I keep telling you, I'm not big into watching the women's college basketball, but you know what? I found myself. I watched it for a little while last night, and for the first time, I really watched her play. I mean, I've seen highlights, but I never really watched much of a game. I watched her play last night, and she's an amazing player, no doubt. A lot of people were comparing her to Steph Curry because she has that unlimited range like he does.
Yep.
And she's a kind of a magician with a ball like Steph is. And yeah, I think it's a real good comparison myself from what I've seen. And I was like, wow, she is really good. I see all the hype. Just great. And like you said, it was a revenge game. That LSU team is kind of hated. Their coach is hated. They're like the evil team. And, they put it to them last night. They won it. And it was great for women's college basketball. They had a lot of fans there. That being said, I don't know if I'm going to watch anymore. As long as she's playing, I'll probably watch it. But if they get eliminated, I won't have any interest in it. I think she's the reason why people are watching.
LSU draws a lot of hate on social media, and their attitude often gets taken out on the players. But I don't like their coach at all, Kim Mulkey. She is a headache, even to watch.
I watched her last night, and I could barely watch it. I don't know what it is about her.
The thing is with her, she can't take accountability. She can't. She finds every single thing to blame, whether it's her players, whether it's the refs, whether it's the rim being crooked or whatever excuse she can come up with. It's bad. It's really it's kind of hard to just like watch a game and see her throw a temper tantrum after everything.
Yep, that's exactly what she was doing, throwing a temper tantrum, and just the way she calls timeouts is like, what? Oh my God, it was so dramatic, and I was like, oh my God. She, from what was a pretty good basketball game, and they keep showing her, kind of takes away from it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just show Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and that, and then stay away from the coach. But they can't. They have to show her because, it's part of the theater of it all. But
yeah,
it's too bad that she has that attitude. And I think that's why, a big reason why that team gets such a bad rap is it starts with her.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, Angel Reese gets a lot of hate, a lot. Like
she deserves some of it,
right?
But
I can't go through the comments section without seeing one thing about her. But like, it's kind of I think it's just kind of out of line. Like sometimes because sometimes a post doesn't even have to do with her, and she gets mentioned, and it's hate. And she had a presser last night, and I heard Nick Wright speak on it, and for once in my life, I kind of agree with what he said. I do agree with what he said. He said, sometimes you just got to log off. You can't read what people say. I mean...
Yeah. If you're not... I was going to say professional. They're not professional, but they may as well be. They're in the spotlight as much as a professional athlete is this time of year. And if you're an athlete of that status, it's sad that people write this stuff about you. But they do. And it's just the world we live in today with the social media and all that. And I think the only way, like he said, he said it, and Chris Mad Dog Russo, who is my favorite talk show host, he said the exact same thing that Nick Wright said. You just have to not read that stuff. You have to get away from it. Don't pay any attention to it, because if you do, it's going to consume you. And it's too bad that's the life that they live in, that they have all that hate towards them. But I think they just have to, like you said, just log off. Don't pay any attention to it. Enjoy the moment with your team, and try not to pay attention. But I think it's really hard. It's really easy for me to say that. I'm not the one that they're writing that stuff about. But I think for any athlete that's in that kind of spotlight, that's probably the best advice that anybody could give them is just don't read that stuff, because it's coming from people that you don't know, that has nothing to do with your life. They're just people that have nothing better to do. They probably wish that they were in the spotlight, and so they portray all this hate towards you. So you're better off just not paying any attention to it and just focus on your team. And it's sad, but unfortunately with social media, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I completely agree with it, and I want to bring up some more points that Nick Wright said. He also brought up, this is a very key part. 90%, I bet you probably over 95% of the hate that she's received, that she says really affected her, is not from people she sees on the street, is not from people she sees in person. It's from this.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just
and
keyboard warriors and
yep.
That's all it is, and you have to have real thick skin as an athlete.
And I don't mean just like I don't mean you can't post, you can't can't go on social media, but like just don't read the comments. Try to stay away from that stuff. I mean, it's kind of hard, but just try to distance yourself the most you can from those comments, because I guarantee most of them will make you not feel good about yourself.
That's just it. That's all those comments are meant. That's what those people are trying to do.
Get under your skin.
Get under your skin, and it's just not worth it. Ignore it as much as you can. And I think most athletes they probably all. I'm going to say not all, but most of them probably struggle with this at some point of their career, and it
could lead down a dark path.
It could.
You've seen examples from athletes.
You have. I gotta give them credit though. The vast majority of them handle it pretty well if you think about it.
Yeah.
So they just learn. I think they just take the mindset of, oh, that's not a big deal. That person's nothing, to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to. They're not part of my life. So they just go with it that way. But
they are college kids, so it's going to get them to.
Yeah, it's different. These aren't, like I said, these aren't professional athletes. But unfortunately, they're in the spotlight like a professional athlete.
Exactly.
So they don't have the experience to deal with this.
Right.
Whereas a professional athlete can just, kind of laugh it off in a way, maybe. Not make it, it's not as big a deal to them.
Right. Perfectly said. I agree with that 100%. Just the world we live in, and you gotta find a way to distance yourself from it.
Yeah, and just enjoy your experience, because those kids are experiencing something that we all wish we could experience,
Right.
And
you dream of it every single day. Every single day.
If you're any kind of athlete or ever dreamed of being an athlete, these are the moments you want to be in. March Madness. There's nothing bigger than that for a college athlete. So, just enjoy the moment.
Well, Dad, it is time for the wrap-up segment. Of course, performances of the week.
Oh, we got some good ones.
Yes, we do. Let's start off from the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs this week. Jalen Brunson on the losing end of this game.
Hard to believe, right?
61 points. Hard to believe, yeah.
61 points. I didn't know Jalen Brunson. I mean, how far has that guy come, huh?
Yeah.
From when I watched him at Villanova, he was a good player, but I never thought he was going to be a good NBA player. I just thought he'd make it, but he'd be like a backup point guard,
That's what he was with Dallas, and then everyone thought the Knicks wasted their money, and he has proven everyone wrong.
He's not he's just a small guy, but he scores 61 points. I know it was against San Antonio, but still, it's 61 points in an NBA game. There's not many guys that have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
You can probably count them all in two hands. Not one, but two.
Well, the other star from this same game on the winning end of the San Antonio Spurs, Victor Wembanyama, the highly anticipated rookie with 40 points and 20 rebounds.
What a great performance from him. Do you remember us having a conversation about this time? Well, when is the NBA draft? June? July?
June, I believe. Like end of June?
Is it?
It's right after the finals.
Is it right after the finals?
Yeah.
We had the conversation there on this show about,
or maybe it's.
I think it is June. Yeah, that's right. Like you say. Anyway, and I'm like, I don't think he's going to live up to the hype. He's too skinny. He's frail. This, that, and you know what? I've been proven dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This kid has been very good. If he was on a team that was winning more, you'd be hearing a lot more about him.
Right. But you still hear a decent.
You still hear a decent amount. He's putting up big numbers every night on a team that's not very good, and I think I was wrong. I mean, he has a long way to go as far as durability. We'll see how that goes going forward. They've actually. I also said, and we both kind of said, they're not going to play him much.
Right.
And they have played him.
Yep.
Which I'm very surprised about. I didn't think they would. I thought they would just limit him, and he's been great, and that was another great performance. Can't say enough.
Our next guy is from the Purdue Boilermakers, Zach Edey in the Elite Eight with 40 points and 16 rebounds.
Your favorite college basketball player.
Don't even.
I gotta give it to him on this one. I'm with you. I think he's a little overrated because he's just so big against college kids that a lot of his scoring is because he's just so big. But he played very well in this game against Tennessee. 41 points. He's the reason they won. That game was close at the end until the last. It was tied there with like 2 minutes to go, and he pulled away. He blocked Connect there for Tennessee. Tried to go to the basket. He blocked his shot and all this. And, he was huge in that game. So, got to give him credit. I didn't think he'd be an NBA player, but I'm starting to think that he's probably going to be an NBA player. Not a big-time NBA player, but he's going to have a role in the NBA. And last year, I didn't think that was the case. So, I got to give him credit.
Our next guy is from Tennessee, Dalton Connect. He had 37 this game.
Yeah, he was phenomenal, too. That was probably the best game of the weekend. Yeah, it was. Close game right till the end almost. Then Purdue pulled away. But, yeah, he had a great performance. He was their whole team in that game, just like Edey was Purdue's whole team. Two great guys going back and forth, and in the end, Edey won. But, great performance from Connect, who I think will be a very good pro.
Yes. And next is DJ Burns with another 29 points.
This guy just, you take a look at DJ Burns and you don't think this guy is going to do much, do you? You think he's going to get tired. I'm not trying to be mean here, but he doesn't have the best physique for college basketball, right?
Right.
He's a little bit on the heavy side. But he does it. He gets it done. I don't know how he does it, but he does. He's great around the basket. He's a phenomenal passer. He just knows how to play basketball. There's no other way to put it. He is super smart out there. He knows I think he knows his limitations. He plays that way. He doesn't get tired. He doesn't go out a ton. He plays a lot. And phenomenal. I love watching him play. And I can't wait to see how that Edey Burns matchup goes this weekend.
I'm right with you. And our third to last is Jared McCain with another 32 points for Duke. He was the only one who showed up, unfortunately.
Was this the game against NC State
yes.
or the game before?
Game against NC State.
I kind of lost track of what he was doing because I just so focused on Burns. And yeah, McCain, he pretty much has been Duke's team the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Filipowski, who's going to be a pro. Maybe I don't know if it's this year, but he will be the next couple of years. He hasn't done much in the
Nowhere
tournament.
to be found. No.
Jared McCain's a freshman, and he looks like he's a senior out there. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a pro. I don't know if he's going out this year, but the next year or two.
I think he'll stay one more.
You'll see him in the NBA. He's phenomenal.
I think he'll stay one more, and I think he'll be a great NBA player for sure. And our second to last here is Donovan Clingan of the Uconn Huskies against Illinois with 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks.
Dominant performance by Clingan. He just stifled that whole Illinois team. I'm surprised he only had 5 blocks, but he had so many altered shots that weren't blocks in that game. They were going to the rim, and he was there every time, and they had to shoot around him. He just affected every shot, and dominant by him. Great performance.
And last but definitely not least, Caitlin Clark, 41 points, 12 assists, and 7 rebounds versus the LSU Tigers.
Another great performance by her.
It's becoming a regular.
Yeah, it is. Her shot making is phenomenal. Can't say enough about her. By far the best player I've seen in women's college basketball that I can remember.
Well, everyone, that is the end of today's show. I am once again Preston with my father Mike, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you guys all for your continuous support. It means a lot. Keep it coming, and I'll say thank you. Goodbye. Hey, if you like what you see, you can subscribe down below, and you can listen to our podcast at any time. And also, if you want to reach out to us, you can reach us at pmsporttalk@gmail.com. Also coming soon is a website. Thank you all for listening. Have a good one.